But as I said, we are going to have David Serpa on. He's running against Mark Takano in the 39th Congressional Districts, which I think takes in Riverside, Moreno Valley, Paris. I think some of the Hemet Valley in and there. Takano's been, I don't know, far too long representative out here. He's been tipping us upside down, I believe, of a lot of stuff. David Serpa and a lot of others, I think he's organizing it at the Farm in Norco tomorrow, a big event come out to preview that. The first time I think we've had you on the show. David Serpa, welcome to IE Newswire with Roy.
Roy, it's a pleasure to be here, my brother. I appreciate you having me on.
100%. Before we get to your event at the farm, tell everybody you are running for Congress on the ballot. Tell everybody why you decided you were going to throw your hat in the ring and challenge the odious Mark Takano. Go.
Sure. I think a lot of us are getting to a point to where we're tired, we're frustrated and angry, and we're ready for somebody to step up and step up to the plate to fight this uniparty, which is really what we have, this establishment. I kept looking around for somebody else to do it. And, I'm a combat veteran. I'm a business owner. We have a blended family. I've got 5 kids that we're launching into the world here. And I'm tired of waiting for somebody else to do it. I wrote a book called Common Sense for California, A Guide to the New Revolution. And ultimately that book pushed me to feel like, maybe I'm the right person to step up and fight back against these forever wars, against this homelessness, industrial complex, against our borders being overrun, and fight for an energy independent, energy, flourishing and water flourishing state in country. And so that's where I'm at, Roy.
100%. I mean, it was amazing to me, and I don't know anybody that's got, I think you got, 44%, Takano 56%. I don't think anybody from your philosophy in this area that Takano's had has got that close to him in a primary. Even some of the insiders are saying, for the first time in a long time, the old 39th or Takano might be facing a challenge from good old David Serpa. What say you?
I appreciate you saying that. 44.5%. So we got within 11% of Mark Takano, which is the closest that anyone has gotten in 12 years. Republicans turned out across the state, plus 5.4% when you look at registration versus turnout. But in our district, we had plus 13.9%. So Republicans turned out. We knocked on over 19,000 doors in the primary. I started running back in March of last year. So we're laying the groundwork and the foundation amongst the grassroots to really unite the party, and which is what we need to do, bleed some of these disenchanted and disenfranchised Democrats who feel abandoned by their party and convert them into Republicans, and then, win across the board. Don't just look at, I'm just not just looking at my district. I'm looking at the conjoining district with Mike Cargile and Ian Weeks. I'm looking at these overlapping districts with Senate seats and Assembly seats. So when we look at it and we develop a strategy to win as a team, we could beat the Democrats at their own game, because that's what they do. They win at that game. They coalesce, they ballot harvest, they phone bank, they door knock, and we could beat them at all of those things.
I've said this, and I'm not saying you're not, but I've said, give me a candidate that's willing to go out there and work and put in and work relentlessly at it. And, there could be differences of anything else. But that's what, to me, that's one of the qualities I look into somebody or a candidate if I'm going to support them or think that they got a chance to win. And I will say that just go back to 2016 when everybody said, Hillary's going to mop the floor with Trump. And Hillary was running around like it was a coronation, like she didn't have to do anything. And Trump was out there with the people in the trenches and pulled one of the biggest presidential surprises of all time. I think you have the potential in the 39th district to do something like that. Based on just watching you and the way you've run your campaign and the way you work, you'll show up practically anywhere. Like you say, you've knocked on doors. You got the turnout. People say that can't be done or something. You actually, in a high Republican turnout in your district, and I'm sure a lot of your efforts and your campaign team's efforts of doing it got even over double of what the state average was. Go.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. And I think we're going to do I know we're going to do even better than that in the general election, because in the primary, Democrats can't vote for Republicans. It can go the other way, but the way that the jungle primary works in California, unless someone was a registered Republican, they were not able to vote for me. And I know that there are a lot of Democrats out there that are going to vote for me because they see how far off to the fringe that Mark Takano has gone and just how little of his constituents he actually represents. And people are ready for a representative that's truly representative of the people, willing to stand up for everyone, not just their base, and truly make a dent in some of these fundamental flaws that have been allowed to take place and perpetuate in our republic. Because if we're going to keep our republic, we're going to have to fight it. We can't believe that, like Hillary Clinton, that it belongs to us and that it's going to be handed to us. We have to preserve it. We have to protect it. And we have to establish that shining city on a hill again.
100% on that. I mean, it's been frustrating, especially the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I see it, what gives me hope is I see it circling back. But, the whole Inland Empire area, Orange County, San Diego, minus L.A., was always, you would say, well, you don't even want to say Republican, or if you want to say, was center-right. Most of the stuff, if you ran through all the elections 5, 10, or 10, 15, 20 years ago, the base of the center right, if a Republican got elected or a tax increase or a bond got defeated, it was because we voted, probably 60+% against it. That went away. We went to actually voting for Hillary Clinton for president in 16, as a majority and stuff. But it's coming back. I mean, we're starting to do that. Steve Garvey in the Senate race, actually led to that. You got as close as anybody has probably ever, as Mark Takano's been in there. The city of Riverside City Council, which was a local race because they're a charter city, flipped seats, turning from a very center left council to more back in the center of that because they got some two center right candidates coming in. I see a lot of hope with this, and I think if we play our cards right and capitalize on it, we can make this a movement of, like, I'm even saying to the proportions like Prop 13 in 1978. What say you, David?
Yeah, I think that there's a major pendulum swing in that we have an opportunity to define what common sense is for a country. And that if we can articulate our party platform, like Ronald Reagan was able to do in California, that we could build Reagan's big tent Republican Party here in California, specifically here in Riverside County, and set up a blueprint so that we could win the state back in 2026. But we can't win, a recall of Gavin Newsom when that just lost by over 20% in the last election cycle. What we have to do is we have to do exactly what you were talking about. Win back these cities, flip these city council seats, flip these school boards, the assembly seats, the Senate seats. And then when we can show people what the alternative party platform is, what our message is, what we can accomplish, then I believe that voters will show up to vote for us. But Californians haven't shown up to vote for Republicans in a long time because we have had nothing but weak Republicans that have no ideals, no principles, and when they stand up to debate Governor Newsom, they have nothing worth saying. And so they're absolutely manhandled on a debate stage, which is unfortunate because Governor Newsom is an easy person to run against. He has absolutely made a mess of the state. He made a mess of his city in San Francisco. We have loser cities, loser governor, loser mayors all over this state. All that we have to do is articulate the messaging, activate the grassroots, and then swing that pendulum back. And I think that if we can do that, that we're looking at the next 12 to 16 years of this city, of this country going conservative.
I think so. And to summarize my take on it, a couple things. I think people have, and really, if you want to, and I mean, you don't want to get into the Arnold Schwarzenegger deal, but I would say since 2008 when Barack Obama was elected president, and then Jerry Brown came back in 2010. We have not elected a statewide representative at all to California that was not Democrat. It just hasn't happened. And people, whether it's their union or they go to that or however it happened, but you put out the point. Back in the day, we used to ticket split a lot. I mean, we had Alan Cranston and John Seymour, Republican Democrat, in our U.S. Senate. And we have the opportunity to do that with Steve Garvey, and I think he's got a shot, too, at it. But you said something where I really want to focus this, and I think, and I'm not, before anybody goes haywire or starts roasting me, we know a lot. Stand Up Riverside, California, Riverside Republican Assembly, and a lot of the grassroots are in there in the trenches and fighting. But overall, like you said, our candidates, the California Republican Party, has not fought. They've just like surrendered just every time. And that's why we're in the pickle. And I think people are, and I think the city of Riverside election showed it. Steve Garvey doing as good as it is. And like you say, the Republican, we almost beat Prop 1, the odious bond deal and we got them backing up on putting more. They were planning on putting 3 more on in November, and they're backing up. And it just, I think if we get that fight back, and I know you have it because I've seen it, we get that fight overall back in and stoke the fires of that. Hey, we got, you might have considered that, or your friends or your coworkers or your union told you to vote this way, but look where it's gotten you. $5 gallon gas, groceries up the kazoo, vagrants, all your cities are unsafe. Your kids are not getting the education that you are paying for. That's where I see we need to go, David.
I agree. And we have had a Democratic supermajority in the state since 1998. I mean, even when we had a Republican governor, we still had a Democratic, Democratic governance, in the Senate and Assembly on the state level. And so, did Schwarzenegger really run his state like a Republican? No, I don't think so. And we've had atrocious governors. We had, Brown. We had Davis. We had, Newsom. And so I think at this point, people have spent their entire lives voting Democrat in California. And now people have an opportunity to start seeing, what we're seeing here locally. We have young Republicans. We have a lot of minorities that are running, Hispanic and Black Republicans, Bleckert, Jexit, people that were historically Democrats that have voted Democrat their whole life. And all they had to do was have somebody articulate these viewpoints to them, because their whole life they would describe themselves and their families as conservatives, but they would vote Democrat. And so it just takes articulating where we stand and also actually standing for something, because for a long time, Republicans in the state have stood for nothing but repealing the gas tax. You actually have to stand for something. And I think that water's common sense. Energy is common sense. We have so much water, 800-mile long coastline. We should be growing the food that we eat here. We are rich in uranium, lithium, natural gas. We found 500 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. So we have everything that we need to live in abundance. We need to stop capitalizing on scarcity. We need people that have actually run businesses before successfully to get into positions of government so that we can start running government a little bit more like a business. I don't think that that's a bad thing. A good business takes care of its employees, and that's something that we haven't done in California for decades.
100%. We're talking with David Serpa. He's running for Congress, District 39, I think at Riverside, Moreno Valley, Paris, Somahima Valley, in and around there. Mark Takano's represented, and I say that lightly, for us for a long time of that. He's making a good challenge on that. Got pretty close in the primary, giving us hope on some of that stuff. And I want to put a disclaimer out there. I do not write David's campaign speeches or what he's saying, even though he sounds almost like 147% of what I say all the time on this stuff. But of that, no, but that's why we need guys like this. You got an event. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left. We got an event coming up in Norco at the farm. You're going to have a lot of candidates, a big rally of that. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm in good company if I'm sounding like Roy Bleckhert. It's good to sound a little bit like a radical, a little bit like a deplorable. Really own that. because then you're saying something. You're not just another empty vessel. So we've got this really great event coming up at the farm in Norco, which is this beautiful venue. They donated the venue to us for the evening. Food by Speakeasy Barbecue. They're doing all the food. Tickets are just $25. We've got 26 speakers. The clubs for over 10 presidents of the clubs for 10 local clubs. We have congressional candidate Ian Weeks, Mike Cargile, myself. We have Senate nominee Cynthia Navarro. We have Assembly nominee Ron Edwards, Assemblyman Bill Asaley. So it's the vice chair for the state, Corinne Walker, our local chair, Matthew Dobler. So we've got a lot of really great people. Plus, we're going to have a media and Merchant Row that's going to open up at 5 o'clock. IE Newswire is going to be there. So we've just got a lot of really great things. But what we're doing is we're activating the grassroots. This isn't just another opportunity for us to sit at a winery somewhere and clink forks and complain about Sacramento. This is going to be an opportunity for you to get out and get activated in the fight, find a club, an organization, or candidate that you're passionate about, and get involved in that campaign in this election cycle.
And I've really pushed this, and I really believe in it. And there's 4 people running, and they're basically in a loose way running in the same area. You mentioned Cynthia Navarro, Senate District, California Senate District 31.
Yes, sir.
And Leticia Castillo, AD 58. Ron Edwards in AD 60. And you're all in the same area, and I hope, like with the event you're putting on, I think if we collectively work our efforts and use our campaign strategy and assets and money and people and resources and all those buzzwords they throw out, meantime, just be... there's an old saying, work harder, but my philosophy is work smarter. And I think if we do, we got a shot to win in the state and national races of that. We got a shot to win. There's a path to victory for each one of you in that. And I think if we, as I say, if we get our act together on this, we can win those seats. We start winning those, and we desperate. Even as bad as the Congress is, the Assembly and the state Senate are even. They're almost 80% Democrat. At least you got to fight. You got a fighting chance if you get up to Congress, and there, it's about 50-50 split. I mean, it's totally off the deep end in California. If we don't change that, it won't be the San Andreas fault that sinks us. It'll be our own doing, David.
Correct. Like Rome, we will fall from within. And it won't mean anything to get President Trump elected if we don't have the House and if we don't have the Senate. And that's just, common sense right there. So we need to hold the House, considerably. A 1-seat margin is not going to do it. We need the Senate. And then we need to start making examples in California out of these districts and start winning these back. You said, you work smarter, not harder. That's something that we talk about in the Marine Corps all the time. When you are outnumbered as we are, we have to work smarter and harder because we are absolutely outspent. But at the end of the day, they could outspend us monetarily, but we could beat them militarily. We could beat them with our ground game. And, we've got over 70 volunteers in my campaign. We release 2 to 3 videos every single day. We're doing the groundwork that we need to do so that we can hopefully win, because at the end of the day, if everybody wins, because I have the hardest district to win out of any of the districts out there, any district around me. It is the worst district, the hardest one to win. So that means that I'll be the last man out, and I'm fine with that. So that's why I'm trying to work with everybody, because if I lose, but Leticia wins, Ron wins, Cynthia wins, Ian wins, Mike wins, we're in a situation where we made a huge statement. So I am trying to get myself over the finish line as well. I'm looking at this mission is critical, and if the mission is critical, it has to be accomplished by any means necessary. And so that's what we're trying to do. So, tickets are $25. You can get them at MakeCaliforniaGreatAgain2024.com or at my website, davidserpaforcongress.com. And we've got a few of these events coming up. It's not just the one tomorrow night, though this one, we're trying to get all 250 tickets sold to make it a really big, exciting event for everybody.
100%. I'm going to see if I can get a hold of those cloner people and see if I can replicate you about 152 times of that, so we can get out there of doing the troops out there. No, it's absolutely critical. Again, of that, we got about a minute left. Again, roll through where they can get the tickets, where this is at, what time it is tomorrow. Go.
Tomorrow night, we got doors opening up at 5 o'clock at the Farm in Norco. The event will wrap up at about 8:30. We've got 26 speakers in 2.5 hours that are all going to be speaking from different clubs, organizations or candidates or incumbents. You can get tickets at MakeCaliforniaGreatAgain2024.com or DavidSerpaForCongress.com. This is a fundraiser for my campaign. I want to have a bunch of these, as many as we can. So if you've got a location, if you've got a spot where we could hold a rally, if you've got a candidate that you're excited about, we could launch this infrastructure around them. Because if we do not stand together, if it's not united, we stand. It's divided, we fall. And that is straight out of the Maoist playbook. They've been keeping us divided so that they can keep us conquered and colonized. And we're catching on to it. We realize it's not left versus right. It's the people against this uniparty system, which no longer serves us.
100% on that. Thanks for being on. We're going to have to get you in studio here pretty soon, and we'll roll with some of this stuff maybe even more in depth on that. Thanks for being on, David.
That'd be great, Roy.
You got it. Yeah, you got it. Have a good look out there at that tonight, and then hopefully you'll work on some more of these. For those who can't make it tomorrow, we'll have other opportunities to meet David and other candidates on there. Again, thanks for being on, David.
Have a good night.
You got it. David Serpa on there running for that. Like I say, the enthusiasm, and that's what it takes, man. Like I say, I'll take a candidate who's hungry, who will go out there and work for it, versus somebody, even if they've got a lot of money or that. Like you said, I'll go to war, the political wars with somebody like that every day of the week, and as they say, 9 times on Sunday.